The studio now by Minister Richard Bruton from Fine Gael. Minister, good morning.
Morning, Carl.
By the way, the cabinet meeting yesterday, we hear that Taoiseach wished you all well and said you'd done a good job. Was that the last meeting of this government?
Well, it may well be. Certainly, we had the report of the stability update, as they call it, that's going to the EU, and it was gratifying to see that, you know, the economy is in robust state, even though it is facing challenges ahead. So, you know, I think the Taoiseach rightly paid tribute to the people who'd contributed to the work of the last government.
Was it in effect goodbye to this government?
Well, I suppose we're the longest serving government, I think, bar any wartime government. So perhaps we are coming to our end, but we have to wait and see.
Now, the progress was the word on the lips of both sides' negotiators as they came out of the talks last night. What's your read of it?
Well, in any deal, you're not going to get everything you look for. And I think, you know, we didn't win the election, so we're not able to impose our view on the Dáil. But I think the agreement that has been worked out will give both parties the chance to find a way of agreeing to the formation of a government and dealing with the Irish water issue in a very responsible way. And I think the elements, as we've seen reported, the national utility is being protected, which is something that has already delivered results. And on the very controversial issue of charging, there will be, you know, expert input, which will allow us see all the facts, what will happen to the staff, to the, you know, to the utility, to conservation if charges stay or go, and then the Dáil will be able to make a decision. And I think, you know, that is an open way of doing the business. We certainly, from Fine Gael's part, will strongly advocate the policy that we put in place of having a charging regime to promote conservation of a very precious resource, and to fund this without putting pressure on investment resources which are badly needed for jobs, for health, for crime, for housing, for all the things we know are the top priorities that people are concerned about.
But in the meantime, charges will be suspended.
Yeah, charges will be suspended for a time-defined period while this work goes on, and then the Dáil will have to decide. And I think obviously a very fundamental principle in any such decision is that people who have done their civic duty and paid their charges must be treated properly.
What does that mean?
Well, obviously for people like ourselves who advocate having charges, it means that those who have not paid their charges will be fully pursued as the new charging regime comes into place. For those who are advocating something different, they will have to make sure that the fundamental principle...
Yeah. No, but you used the phrase there that those who've paid their water bills should be treated properly. What does that mean?
Well, it means in the event that charges continue, which, you know, I would hope would be the outcome, that those who were in default will have their bills pursued. We have the power for attachment of earnings and so on. That's on the statute books. On the other hand, if the other view prevails and charges are to be no longer to prevail, then people will have to get their money back. That's obviously the only fair principle that can apply, but it'll be up to those who are advocating, you know, getting rid of charges to demonstrate that this will be done in a way that's fair to everyone. Because I think for us, it's an absolute fundamental principle.
It is indeed, and as Michael Darcy was reminding us all, this is what Fine Gael said most recently 2 weeks ago. Water charges should stay. And right until now, or right until a couple of days ago, Fine Gael was saying, yes, you should pay. And many of your supporters did. 60% paid their bills in the last round. And effectively, if you suspend them, that's water under the bridge. And you're saying to those people, weren't you the right aegis to have paid the bills?
By no means. There will be a temporary suspension of charges, and we will be strongly advocating the continuation of charges, because it means that, you know, very substantial money will be freed up for investment in housing and health and crime and jobs, which is very important. It will mean that an expensive resource, expensive to create is
but I'm just thinking of those people Michael Darcy was speaking about. You said to them, pay your bill, and you said that most recently, the Parliamentary Party 2 weeks ago. And now, without any consultation with him or the party, and it appears, without thinking of all those people who did pay their bills, you're doing, as he put it, a complete U-turn. You're rolling over in the face of those who say, no, there shouldn't be charges. And certainly not for 9 months at least.
The truth is, Carl, we didn't win the election, so we can't impose our policy on the Dáil. And we have an obligation to form a partnership government that can deal with the real pressing issues. But we do also need to deal with water in a fair way. And what we are doing is dealing it within a fair way. And we will defend to the hilt those who have paid their charges. It's a fundamental principle that people who do their civic duty in that way must be treated equally with everyone else. There can be no question of those people left at a loss if a decision is taken in the future that charges don't continue.
I know that,
we will be determined to make sure that happens.
It sounds like fine words, but in the real world, you know what we all think. That money that anybody who paid, as I say, they'll feel like Aegis. Because, I mean, of course there'll be the principle that debts will be pursued. But who expects realistically that anyone's going to go after a 2 or 3 or 4 year old water bill?
Well, under the law, as you know, no property can change hands unless these bills have been cleared. There's attachment of earnings powers there. This is those who decide this, and obviously this will have to go through an expert group, through the Oireachtas committee. But it will be a fundamental principle from our point of view that people who do their civic duty and pay their taxes must be treated fairly and equally, and that's what we will be holding out for. And the law is there to protect people, and we would be undermining people's commitment in many other important areas if we don't uphold that principle, and we will be certainly upholding that rigorously in every dealings that we have.
Just you mentioned the principle of water charges being attached to the property. We know that the property tax is. Are you quite sure that is the position, that water charges are, not only should be, but are attached to a property and will have to be paid before, as the law stands now, before a property is sold?
That is my understanding, and I think anyone who's advocating something different to the Oireachtas committee will have to set out their case, and there will have to be a vote of the Dáil by people accountable to those people. But I think the bigger picture here is that we do need a government. We are facing economic headwinds. We still have 8.4% unemployed. We have a housing crisis. We have real problems in crime and health. We need to form a government that won't fall at the first hurdle. And water has been a very divisive issue. We need to put it into a process that is fair and just to everyone, that allows the Dáil to do what new politics is about. Members elected considering the issues in detail, anticipating the consequences of their action, and then making proper decisions fully in the open on the floor of the House, accountable to the people. And that's the way this will be handled.
Right. You think there'll be from what you hear now, do you think there will be a minority government set up on this arrangement, facilitated by Fianna Fáil?
Well, that remains to be seen. Obviously, great progress has been made, but this deal has to be completed. It has to be put to the parliamentary parties. We then have to talk to independents and see, do they see that this is a deal that they can have confidence in. But I think, we have tried everything in this since this started. We tried to form a partnership government. Now it looks like the only partnership that we can be formed will be in a minority. But we are trying to make sure that such a minority is still capable of making the important decisions that are out there. And this issue, while it's not in itself the biggest issue, it's the sort of issue that could trip up a government in its early period. So we had a duty to take the time to find something that both parties would be satisfied with, and that could deal with this issue in a fair way, and still allow the important issue of managing the housing crisis, crime, health, jobs, and all of those issues in a way by a government capable of making decisions and bringing the Dáil with it on issues that are important to the country.
All right, Richard Bruton, thank you very much for talking to us. 26 minutes past 8.